Welcome everyone. I'm so glad to have you back for the June edition of the HU Crafty Club Box. Woohoo! So this month we're going to have some tie-dye fun. There are 2 projects included in this month's kit, and there's a 3rd bonus project, of course. The first project that we're going to be doing is ice dyeing. So we're basically going to use ice and powdered dye on top of our garment to create a really cool effect. The second project is marbling. Marbling uses some type of a cream, so a whipped cream or a shaving cream, and then you add the dye to that, and then you would lay your garment on top of this mixture, and it'll pick up the dye as well as the pattern that's on top on the dye. So our 3rd bonus, I just threw in a t-shirt because you're gonna have dye left over, and what is summer without a tie-dye t-shirt? So you can use either one of these techniques to dye your shirt, or you can go classic old school and you can just dye the shirt however you want to. There are a lot of patterns and different ways of folding the shirt to get different effects that we're not covering, but you can feel free to use any of them. I have linked on the website a really great resource that is actually, the website is created by Tulip, and we're using Tulip One Step dyes here today. So their website has a ton of other techniques that you can use. So I encourage you to check out the resources tab on the webpage and just have a lot of fun this month, okay? We tie-dyeing, y'all. Have some fun. All right, so before we get started, let's go ahead over those supplies so that you can see what we have going on this month. So this month, you received a pair of socks, a cotton bandana, 5 different colors of tie-dye powder, and this tie-dye powder is Tulip One Step brand. You have a plastic spoon that you can use to get the powder out of the dye packet and sprinkle it onto your garment, or you can use the spoon for whatever you see fit. We have stirring sticks and skewers, some wooden spatulas, shaving cream, poster board strips, tape. Yes, I know there's 2 rolls in there. I threw the first roll in and I said, oh, this is really small, it might not be enough, so let me give them a larger roll of tape. There's a tie-dye rack and a disposable aluminum tray, gloves, a plastic drop cloth. You have a 4-ounce squirt bottles. You have 4 of those. Rubber bands and a little mini funnel that you can use to help get the powder into the squirt bottles. In terms of monthly bonuses this month, we added 3 cool things. So 1, you get a t-shirt. Hello. In addition to that, we included our new HU Crafty Club sticker, which you can put on your water bottle or your laptop or your notebook, wherever you want, or you can give it away as a gift. And then we also included some tie-dye note cards that you can use to send a note to your friend. All you gotta do is fold them in half and send your note. Not included this month that you will need is this really basic, y'all. We need some ice, preferably crushed, and we need some water. Okay? All right, so let's get started with the projects. So let's go over some tie-dye basics. The first thing that you want to do is you want to prepare your workspace. You want to make sure that your work area is covered with a drop cloth to protect it from dye. The second thing that you want to do is you want to prepare your item. It's best to wash and dry your items that you're going to be tie-dyeing in advance. This will allow for any shrinkage that's going to occur. In addition, this will remove any sizing from the fabric. So in this video, what you're going to see is you're going to see us actually doing a spiral. So you want to grip the center of your fabric and you want to use your hands to twist it. Use your non-dominant hand to kind of help you guide the fabric, but you just want to keep twisting and twisting and twisting until all of your fabric, all of your garment is in that spiral. And once you get it to that point, then you're going to secure it with rubber bands. we're going to actually put the rubber bands on, and it's going to almost look like we're making slices in our garment. So you can use 3 or 4 rubber bands depending on how many slices that you would like. Next, we're going to take a look at the classic bullseye pattern. So what you're going to do is identify a point in the center, and that's going to be the bullseye. So pinch that point and then lift the item up. Secure rubber bands every 1 to 2 inches. And you just just make sure that the rubber band is tight. Wherever the rubber band is, typically that will leave like a white line, so the fabric won't be dyed under the rubber band, and that's how you get that circle bullseye type of effect. So we're going to go ahead and speed this video up and catch you back at the end. Alright, here we are putting the last rubber band on. So again, every 1 to 2 inches to get that bullseye effect. Voila. Alright, and then last but certainly not least, we're going to show you the scrunch method, and this is the method that we're going to be using for our first project. And so here we're just taking our fingers and our hands and just kind of scrunching the fabric up as best we can. There's really no rhyme or reason to this. You just scrunching. Once you get your garment scrunched the way you want to, then you can try to contain it, if you will, with a rubber band. Something like that. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do project number 1, which is ice tie dyeing. We're going to start by placing our empty tray on our covered work area, and then we're going to put our tie-dye rack right on top of the tray. Alright, so then we're going to grab our project, and we are doing the scrunch method, but we put some more rubber bands on it to secure it, to hold it together. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our cardboard strips, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a barrier around the bandana, okay? So we're just kind of measuring it out here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to tape the poster board together so that it creates that circle. Unfortunately, we left our tape at the studio. Well, we recorded this at home, so we just had to grab some tape that we have. But never fear, the tape that's provided in the kit will work perfectly for this. Alright, so now that we have our tape on, what we're going to do is we're going to sit our garment inside of our barrier. So next we're going to go and grab some crushed ice. If you don't have crushed, that's totally okay. You can crush it yourself or use regular ice. But we're going to try to use crushed ice. and we're going to fill our barrier up with the ice. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to sprinkle our dye powder on top of the ice. So if you haven't already grabbed your glove, make sure you put them on. So we're going to use 1 to 2 colors here. That's what we recommend. And what you're going to do is you're just going to sprinkle the dye powder on top of the ice all over. If you're doing 2 colors, try to leave some areas white or clear with just, the ice, so that you can have some independent sections of each color and then have some other areas where the dye powder overlaps. One lesson that we learned when we were doing this is that the blue and the purple dye, those 2 colors just are so dominant. In the end, we ended up with a dark blue color basically throughout our entire bandana, and we'll show you what that looks like. If you're the type of person that will have a little bit of trouble sprinkling the powder out, feel free to use the plastic spoon that we provided to help you sprinkle the powder all around. And don't be shy here with the powder. Alright, so now we just have to sit back and chill and let all of the ice melt. It may take about an hour or more for the ice to melt, so you can use this time to clean up your work area. Once all of the ice is melted, you're going to remove it from the tray and put it inside of a plastic bag, and you're going to let it set for at least 8 hours. Leaving it for 24 hours overnight will provide the best results, but the dye does need at least 8 hours in order to process so that the dye can bond with the fabric. Okay, so let's move on to project number 2, which is marble tie-dye, and we're going to be using socks for this. Y'all, this project is messy. I just wanted to warn you. So we're going to start by mixing our dye. So I still had approximately a half of blue and a half a pack of purple left, so I went ahead and put those in my bottles. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put 2 ounces of water instead of the full 4 ounces. But I'm going to add a little red into my mixture here, and I'm going to do my whole pack. So I'm going to put the red dye powder into my bottle, and if this is something that is a little challenging for you, we did provide the funnel, and so you can go ahead and use the funnel as we are about to demonstrate. Take note of my hands, folks. What am I missing? What is missing on my hands while I'm doing this with the powder? Have you guessed it yet? That's right, it's gloves. So if you don't have your gloves on right now, we highly recommend that you put them on at this point before you start mixing. Alright, so we're just about ready to add the water into our bottles, and so just a recap. For the bottles that are, for the red bottle, we're going to go ahead and add the 4 ounces of water because it is 1 packet of dye to 4 ounces of water, okay? Cool. For our blue and our purple, because we already used about half of the pack, we're just going to go ahead and add 2 ounces of water to these bottles. In terms of the temperature of the water is like cool to warm. It's not really hot, but the water is a little bit warm. Okay, so once we get all of the water in our bottles, going on the trip. Okay, once we get all the water in our bottles, we're gonna mix them up. And so check your lids, make sure they're tight, gloves, and then just give it a shake. Okay, you're just checking to make sure that everything is dissolved. So this is our purple. Purple is ready. Next, we're going to shake up our blue. So again, don't forget to put that lid on tight and then shake, shake, shake. Okay, blue. I guess this lid is not, this lid is a little loose. Oops. And this is why we wear gloves. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up the mess that I made here and get some gloves, and I'll be back. Alright, so we're back. We cleaned everything up. Our dyes are looking good. We just need to go ahead and mix up our red. And once we mix up our red, then we'll be ready to move on to the next project. Please note, I do now have on gloves, although my fingers are already blue. So now we're going to go ahead and move our bottles to the side so that we can get ready for the next part of the project. Alright, so we're going to grab our shaving cream and we are going to fill our tray. We're going to fill our tray at least halfway. You can fill it all the way if you want, but at least halfway. Once we finish dyeing our garment, there will be some shaving cream left in the tray. You can reuse that shaving cream to dye as many things as you possibly can. So it does not have to go to waste. So now we recommend that you grab your spatula. Now you can use any of the tools that we provided, the spoon, the stirring stick, the skewer, whatever you want to do. But for the next part of the project, what the idea is that we want to make this shaving cream as level as possible, almost like we're frosting a cake. Alright, so now we're going to add our dye. So what we're going to do is you can do drops of dye, you can put them all over the place, or if you want to do lines, you can draw like lines on an angle, whatever you want to do. But the idea is just to get as much of the color as you want. You have 4 squeeze bottles, so you could do 4 different colors. Or you could just do 2 colors or 1 color and leave a lot of the areas white. So now we need to marble. So you can use your spatula or you can use your swizzle stick. We actually think the swizzle stick gives the best results after we tested everything. And I'm just going back and forth, kind of making like figure 8s. And as you can see, my dye is swirling. Now I should have stopped here, y'all, but I had to keep going. It was looking really good. So I kept going. You want to swirl it, but you don't want to swirl it too much. The more you swirl it, the more the colors will blend together and it'll just start to turn gray. But you want to make sure that you actually can see a pattern. That's the idea. So you swirl until you're satisfied with how it looks and with what you see. Alright, so once you have the pattern that you like, you're going to lay your socks down onto the top and you're going to just gently, very gently press so that we can make sure that the fabric is making contact with the dye. Okay? So you'll add both socks, and then you're going to actually let it sit here for 10 to 15 minutes, okay? And let the dye kind of bond and penetrate the fabric. One thing that I will note is I did this again, and the second time I did it, I actually opened up the socks so that I was dyeing the top of the sock and the bottom of the sock separately. So that's just something to throw out there for you to think about. Doing it the way that I'm doing it right now in this video, it's dyeing the right hand side of the sock and then it's going to dye the other left hand side of the sock. So we're going to leave this on, again, we're going to leave it on for about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll come back and we will flip the socks over. Alright, so 10 minutes have passed. You can kind of see that the ink is starting to come through at the tops, around the edges of the sock. So we're going to very, very carefully lift our sock up, and you can still see that there's a bunch of dye still left down there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to flip our sock over very carefully, and we're going to press it back down into the shaving cream so that the other side can also get some of the dye. Now, if you lift up your garment and there's not a ton of ink underneath where you're going to be laying your sock back down, such as it like here, then you can grab your stick. You could drop some more ink there, or you can try to move some of that ink over so that there's some there. And then after you do that, you can go ahead and lay the sock back down. And then very gently, you want to press that sock into that shaving cream just like you did the other side. Y'all, when I tell y'all this is messy, it is so messy. Alright, so it's been 20 minutes. We cleared off part of our tarp, drop cloth, and we are now going to go ahead and we're going to take the socks out of the cream and we're going to lay them onto this plastic. We're going to wrap the plastic around the socks so that they stay damp as they are setting. We're at the point where our projects have been setting for either 6 to 8 hours and or overnight, right? So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to remove the items from the plastic bag that we put them in for them to set in, and we want to rinse them out. So you can rinse them out in your sink, run them under cold to warm water, and you want to just keep running it under that water and wringing out the dye until the water runs clear. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed this month's HU Crafty Club kit. I know. It was so much fun, I know. But here's the cool thing. You still have some dye left. You got those squeeze bottles. Grab yourself some more garments and, see how far you can stretch that dye. Now, a couple things that I want to just make note of, some lessons learned, if you will. One, I don't think I mentioned this up front, but you definitely 100% need to make sure that whatever garment you're dyeing has a high cotton thread count. Thread count? It might not be thread count, but has a high percentage of cotton. The socks that were used in this video to demonstrate the marbling technique, those actually had a high polyester count. And so in the end, the dye didn't actually stick to the socks the way that we had hoped. So we found some other socks and those cotton socks worked a lot better. The dye is so vivid and bright. However, we did learn that the thickness of the fabric also does make a difference. And so with those cotton socks that we provided, they're super thick. And so the dye just kind of like absorbs into them. And the design of the marble, you can't really tell. It just looks tie-dyed, like it's, you know, it looks really cool, but it does not look marble. So we do think that the thickness of the fabric matters, and so we do recommend trying that marble effect again with the bandana. But if you do the bandana, you leave it on there for 10-15 minutes, the dye is going to probably start to come right through the back, like you'll be able to see it on top, and at that point peel it off slowly, and you do not need to flip it over and dye the other side. That should be enough to dye your bandana, to marble dye your bandana. We're gonna try it again with the bandana, and we'll post that video in the Facebook group. So I think that's all for this month, y'all. I'm excited for next month. We're gonna do some paper crafting, so I hope you're ready to fill a garden with what we're gonna be creating next month. All right, bye everyone. See you until next time. Thank you. Appreciate you.